I can go to Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Thanks. Okay. Let's begin. Everybody ready? Parshas Noach, Shishi, page 42. Perik Tes Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayu b'nei Noach hayotzim min ha'teva Shem v'cham v'yafes v'cham hu avi Canaan. Everybody has it? Pasuk 18. The sons of Noach who came out of the Teva were Shem, Cham, and Yafes. V'cham he avi Canaan, and Cham is the father of Canaan. Shlosha ele b'nei Noach u'me'ela nafsa kol ha'aretz. These were the three sons of Noach, and from these the whole world was going to reproduce, if you will, was going to spread out. Vayochel Noach isho adama vayitach karem. And Noach, the man of the earth, debased himself and planted a vineyard. So the first thing he does after he comes out of the Teva, he plants a vineyard. Vayesh min hayayin vayishkor vayitgal betoch oholo. And he drank and he became drunk. He became intoxicated and he uncovered himself within his tent. Vayitgal, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Vayar Chom avi Canaan et ervat aviv. And Cham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness, and he went out and he reported that to his brothers who was standing outside, Shem and Yafes. Vayikach Shem v'Yafes sasim lo, vayosimo al Shechem shnehem, vayelchu achoranit, vayechasu es ervas avihem, ufnehem achoranis ve'ervas avihem lo ra'u. And Shem and Cham and Yafes took a garment. Shem and Yafes, took a garment, laid it upon their shoulders, and they walked backwards. And they covered their father's nakedness. Their faces were turned away, and they saw not their father's nakedness. Vayiketz Noach miyeno, and Noach woke up from his stupor. Vayeda es asher asa lo b'no hakaton, and he became aware of, he knew what his youngest son, he says b'no hakaton, he calls Cham his youngest son. The Torah calls it his youngest son, Hedan. Vayomer Arur Canaan, and he said, Arur Canaan, Eved Avodim Yeh le'echav, and he now curses Canaan, and he says, a slave of slaves shall be his brothers. Vayomer Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem, and on the other hand, he says, blessed is Hashem, the God of Shem. V'yihi Canaan Eved Lamo, and Canaan will be a slave to them. Pasuk Chav Yaft Elokim liyefet. He also gives a bracha to Yefet. May God extend Yefet, whatever that means. Yaft Elokim liyefet yishkom bo alei Shem. But Yefet is going to dwell in the tents of Shem. V'hi Chanan Eved Lamo, and Canaan will be a slave to them. And Noach lived after the Mabul 350 years. And the entire lifespan of Noach was 950 years, and he died. Okay. Any questions that you have about the story?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Well, what do you think is happening here?
I compliment the beauty of Yefet.
Okay. Well,
you
read the whole story. Any questions, any observations? What bothers you when you read this story? Anything?
Rechilut, the whole thing. Rechilut, talking about telling the story.
But anything bothers you about the story?
Yeah.
What? What? What did he do to his father? What did the Torah say he did it to his father? Absolutely nothing. He didn't do anything to his father. That's what bothers Rabbi Soloveitchik. He says the text doesn't tell you he did anything. Oh, text seems not to say what he did. What did he do? That's question number one. What did he do? That's what's going to bother him. No, what did he do? What did he do wrong?
The nakedness of his
father.
Nothing else.
Nothing else. That's what it seems to be.
That's what it says.
Okay. What the Rav is going to do is demonstrate clearly. Chazal read this story as a terrible lesson against Cham, and Cham and his grandson Canaan get right. Avi Canaan, his son, and descendants afterwards get cursed. by Noach. Something obviously is happening here, but the simple text doesn't seem to tell us. Simple text is he saw his father's nakedness. Okay, next. What did he do? That's not how Chazal understood it. So the Rav is going to teach us. The Rav is going to teach us how to read this parsha as a fascinating story in understanding kibbud av, or a lack of it. And let's take a look at how the Rav, because this is a sheer and Rav Soloveitchik's understanding of the Chumash. The Rav understands this as a lesson in kibbud av, and it's not only a lesson for Shem, Cham, and Yafes, but quite evidently for all of us for eternity. So now let's go back. Let's see the psukim itself. Go to Pasuk Chof Aleph. Vayesht min hayayin. So he comes out of the teva, and what does he do? He plants a vineyard, right? Vayitak korem. Vayesht min hayayin vayishkor. And he drank of the wine and he became drunk. When one reads this question, when one reads this story, the question that must immediately strike one as he reads the story is, how is it possible that Noach, right after receiving the covenant of the rainbow, right before this is the Keshet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promises him he's not going to destroy the world. And what's the siman? What's the sign? What's the covenant? It's the Keshet. That was the story right before this. Right after he receives that covenant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does he do? He goes and plants a vineyard. He becomes intoxicated and he uncovers himself in his tent. How is that possible?
What he does do, though, is he does build mizbeach and bring korbanot that he does before.
But now,
right
after all of this, after he has this covenant from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does he do? He plants a kerem and he becomes intoxicated and he's sitting in a stupor, naked in his tent. How is that possible? Truth is that this is a turning point in the Torah. It's going to separate us from Noach, who the Torah is very honest about. The selection of Noach to lead humanity has failed. Noach fails as the leader of humanity. This story demonstrates Noach fails as a survivor. He doesn't know. Not everybody does. We'll see. We can't blame Noach, but the Torah is telling us that Noach is not the one who's going to become the one who's going to create and unite a covenantal community that the rainbow had symbolized. He's not the man. That's what this story demonstrates. Noach can't do it. The job is too great for Noach. Noach doesn't know how to be a survivor. And many people don't know how to be survivors. We understand that. It's a very difficult thing. But this is a point in the Torah that's transformative because it demonstrates Noach as a failure, and obviously it's foreshadowing somebody else who's going to take his place. And who is that? The next story, which is going to be Avraham, which is now going to occupy the next few parshiot after Noach, right? Lech Lecha, Ve'era, Chayei Sarah is all the story of Avram, and then Yitzchak, and then Yaakov. Avraham is going to become the one who's going to unite the covenantal community, just like the rainbow represented. This would be in consonance, by the way, with how Rashi understands one word. Go in Pasuk Chof Aleph. Vayesht min hayayin vayishkor. What's the next word? Vayit gal. Vayit gal. How do you translate that word? Vayit gal. Right? Pasuk Chof Aleph. You see it? Vayesht min hayayin vayishkor. Vayit gal b'toch oholo. What does it mean? Who did it? Did he do it to himself or Vayit gal? So Rashi understands it that way. The Bechor Shor and others don't agree. Bechor Shor is the same time as Rashi, a major Rishon, but we don't know of the Bechor Shor that much because he didn't become famous because his Mefaresh, his Perish wasn't uncovered for many, many years. But the Bechor Shor was a very respected Mefaresh, a Rishon. And the Bechor Shor says, no, Vayit gal is not Noach did it to himself. Others did it to Noach.
Why is it
So
no.
I don't know, but that's what he says, Vayit gal. And there are many who wanted to say Vayit gal b'toch oholo, and it would explain, what would it explain? it would explain then what Ham might have done to his father, right? If somebody did something to Noach, or did Noach do it to himself? Rashi understands it as he did it to himself. But there was even more than just his own failure. Noach's own family is divided. Noach's own family can't make a go of it. Noach's 3 sons are not united. They're split. You have Ham on one hand and you have Shem and Yefet on the other, which is a story that also is being documented here. The family is not united. It's not one rainbow together. It's splintered, if you will. And this story foreshadows for us how Noach will leave the stage of history. He's finished. Noach is going to leave the stage of history. He's going to be replaced with whom? Avraham, who's going to unite a covenantal community. He's going to have a family that eventually is going to be united into the Shif Teikah. That's what this story is. It's positioned, if you will. It's the point where everything changes. These few psukim, how many psukim are there here at Shishi? It's from 18 Yud Ches through Chav Tes. That's all. It's 9 psukim, right? It's 11 psukim. No, yeah, it's 11 psukim. That's it. And it's a very important little point in the Torah because we're going from Noach and now we're shifting our focus to Avraham because Noach can't do it. Okay, take a look at next pasuk. Vayacham avi Canaan at Ervat Aviv. Vayaked l'shnei achav bachutz. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw his father's nakedness. This pasuk raises the question: what did Ham really do wrong? What was Ham doing wrong? The text suggests he did absolutely nothing, as Rabbi Soloveitchik says. He saw his father's nakedness. That's not evil. That's not a moral violation. He simply saw his father's nakedness. Well, okay. Noach had done that to himself. Who acted inappropriately? It was Noach who got drunk. It's not Ham. Having cited this passage, right? The Gemara enters into a whole discussion in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Ayin Amud Aleph, and it says the following. It says, Rav and Shmuel had an argument. What actually happened here? Chadamar, one says he castrated his father, and one says, no, he sodomized his father. Pretty abhorrent acts, right? He castrated his father or he sodomized his father. Whatever you do, that now we're getting onto a whole level. How did Chazal suddenly suggest, okay, there's a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel, but what are both of them saying? There was a morally disgusting act that Ham did. How do they pin that in the text? How do they handle it? Where?
The action of Noah.
But what is it in the Torah that tells us that they have what to hang their hat on? No.
Vayeda.
Vayeda what?
Firstly, the word Vayeda.
Vayeda what?
Et asher asalo b'nakatan.
Oh,
But
Vayeda is asher asolo b'no
But
hakaton.
Vayeda is a sexual connotation.
Yeah, it does have a sexual connotation, but Vayeda, it doesn't say what. It doesn't say what. Vayeda is asher aso Noach. It doesn't say, and he knew what he did to himself. He says Vayeda what? Vayeda et asher asa lo b'no hakaton. The Torah is telling you, the Torah is alluding to you that something happened here and Ham did something wrong. The Torah doesn't tell it to you what. So the Chazal come along and they're going to fill in the gap, right? There's a lacuna here. And so they're going to fill in the gap. But they're hanging their hat on those words. Because if Noach had done this to himself, it should have said, Vayeda es asher asa Noach. And that's not what it says. So you have
Vayeda is a powerful
right.
word.
Vayeda, yeah, you're 100% right.
Yediyah, Sarah.
Right, right, 100%. Okay. So now let's return to the text. What does the pasuk, however? That's what Chazal. Now we understand Chazal, right? Chazal is playing with the words Vayeda es asher asalo b'no hakaton. Very good. Okay. The Torah is telling you, hey guys, investigate. It's giving you right. It's giving you clues. All got it. fine. But what does the pasuk itself suggest that happened here? What simple pshat did Ham do to Noach? What did simple pshat did Ham do to Noach?
Clearly,
What?
he's-
What?
Clearly,
No.
he's-
Just tell me what
They
did
do nothing.
he? No, he did something. He did something.
Okay.
Tell me what the Torah tells you he did.
He saw his father's
What
nakedness
does that?
as opposed to his brothers.
Stop. Hello.
He didn't cover
You.
him.
The Torah tells us that he did something wrong. What was it, Ruchama? He saw his father's nakedness. What does that mean? There lies the clue in understanding what the Torah is telling us Ham did wrong. Ham did something wrong according to the Torah. What was it? He saw his father's nakedness. Now, what does that mean? So Rabbi Soloveitchik brilliantly says, that means when you see somebody's nakedness, it's an expression that means you see his faults. You see all of his faults. The Rav explained that Ham did not appreciate the concept of kibud of one iota. At the essence of kibud of, what is there? There's an appreciation that I'm not just because I have innate talents, right? It's not just because I have ability that God gave me. I have talents that God gave me. I am who I am all alone. That's not what kibud of means. Kibud of in the aim, of course, but here we're talking about of, is because I am the son of so-and-so. I just didn't become me. I grew up in a family and it molded who I am. Ham rejected this very concept. What does the Torah tell us, the Rav says? Reading brilliantly the text in his poetic fashion as the Rav would read it, he says he saw his father's nakedness. He didn't accept his father as an influence in a positive vein on who he was. Ham took the position of I am who I am because I am who I am. My father had no influence on me. Not only that, you don't know my father. I'll tell you who my father is. I will reveal his nakedness. What does that poetically mean? I will reveal his true essence to the world. You think my father is a tzaddik? I'm going to demonstrate, and that's what the Torah told us, right? Each tzaddik kaya. And what does the Torah also tell you? That he walks with God. Oh, you think back in Pasuk Perek Vav, Pasuk Tes, go back to Perek Vav, Pasuk Tes, what does the Torah document about him? Back, Ela Todos Noach Ish Sadik, Tamim Hayah B'Dorosov, Et Elokim, His Aleich Noach, he walks with God. Oh, everybody looks at my father as the spiritual leader and the most important and righteous man of the world. I'm going to reveal to you who he really is. You know who he really is? He's a hypocrite. He lays stark naked he's in a stupor. He's drunk in his tent. You don't know that. I know that, Ham says, and I'm going to reveal it to the world. The Rav notes that whenever the Ramban would disagree with Baal Hilchos Gedolos, the Bahag, he would always say, I am the midget on top. He would disagree quite often with the Bahag, the Ramban, but he always would say, I am the midget on the shoulders of the giant. If I sit on top, I see further than the Bahag. But what does that tell you? The Rav pointed out about the Ramban. The Ramban didn't reject the Bahag. The Ramban said, he's my foundation, right? He's my foundation. What am I? I'm on his shoulders, so I can see further than he. The child is on the parent's shoulders. But what does that say about the child? About the parent. The parent is the foundation of the child. Kibud of the aim is recognizing you come from people who've developed you and who have molded you. And that Ham couldn't accept. Ham saw the stark nakedness of his father. He had no respect. He rejected his father's influence upon him. Vayaged l'shnei echad, continues on, the pasuk says. And what does he do? He tells it to his brothers, pasuk chav gimel, the pasuk chav base, right? Vayar Chom Avi Kanan es ervas aviv. He sees who his father. What does nakedness mean? You see the stark truth, right? In literature, that's what it means. You see the stark truth. Nothing covers it up. You see everything is out in the open. Isn't that what nakedness is? Everything's out in the open. And he tells his brothers. The Rav explains that this is exactly what Chum told his brothers Shem and Yafes. He shared to Shem and Yafes. You think Abba is the tzaddik, he's salech im Elokim. You think that of Abba. I know the truth. I'm going to reveal to you the truth. I'm going to reveal to you who our father is. Chum wanted to demonstrate that Noach was no tzaddik. Noach was the hypocrite. And that's exactly what he tells. What Chum wanted to do was to show the world that who his father really is. I'm going to let Chum said to the world, come, look at Noach, the vaunted savior of the world. The Rav says he wallows as a drunken sailor, if you will, in his tent. That's his world. Well, he's telling whoever the world is. Well, who is it? Who's the world right now? His brothers. He's telling them, right? And he's telling us through the text. He's telling us through the text.
The word bachutz.
Yes.
This is to the public.
Yes, to the public. To the public. Exactly. Yes, 100%. What Chama said. That is a word has sexual connotations.
Sexual there, it's suddenly they realize they're exposed, and again the world comes to an end, just like it does here for Ham. He's basically exiled when that's
where are you using
right?
Oh, back in Gan Eden. Gan Eden, yeah, right. Yes, there are many levels here. Many levels, but what the Rav is demonstrating is because when you read these psukim, you have to ask, what is the pasuk saying? Oh, Chazal, we understand. We came to understanding where Chazal came from, right? We saw, because it says, Vayeda es asher asalo b'noha katan, right? So we said, okay, now we get it. That Chazal in the Gemara suggested he did either sodomy or, right? He raped him or whatever he did. Terrible acts, moral. But what does the Torah tell you? The Torah tells you, the simple text tells you something profound when you read it carefully. It says he demonstrated to the world his nakedness of his father.
What was his motivation for that?
And so the Rav said, he rejected the idea of kibud of. Kibud of, that's the point the Rav is making. He rejects the idea that my father is really my source of who I am. I don't accept that. I'm who I am because I am who I am. In other words, Chum is very haughty. Chum's personality, if you had to, I give you now a piece of paper and I said, okay, describe what you've learned and how would you describe Chum? The first word that you should say is Chum is a Bal Gaiva. Chum is me, myself, and I. In the ultimate, me, myself, and I do not have any relationship whatsoever with my father. He rejects that outright, the Rav says. Look at Noach. You want to know my father? I'll demonstrate to you who he is. I'll demonstrate his real nakedness to you. There's an important lesson to remember from this story. The Torah does not justify Noach's behavior. Is the Torah honest about what Noach did? 100%. Did Noach do something that Avram or Moshe would have done? Definitely not. They wouldn't have planted a vineyard. They wouldn't have become intoxicated. The first thing you plant, you're going to rebuild the world. The first thing you plant is the source of alcohol. You don't do that if you have a clearer picture of what has to be done. The Torah is honest about Noach's behavior. It's honest that Noach is a failure. But that all said, what does the Torah want us to understand? We don't jump on Noach. We're honest about him. But there's another caveat to this. Noach is whom? What did Noach go through? He went through a Holocaust. He went through a Holocaust. He's a survivor. That said, he experienced an extraordinarily difficult life. And the Torah is honest about that. He was the one who was in the teva. He was responsible keeping the world going. What was happening outside of the teva? Destruction. Destruction. He lived through that. He had a serious case of PTSD. The ultimate case of PTSD. We think PTSD is recent. If the Torah is telling you, well, we have a model of PTSD, who is it? The first model is Noach. Noach is the first one that the Torah identifies with PTSD. And his response is to do what? How does Noach respond to PTSD? Like a lot of unfortunate situations in mental health. What do? They go to drugs, they go to alcohol, they find an out. And what's Noach's out? Is this is so realistic to our generation. It's unbelievable. Noach is a survivor who doesn't know how to handle being a survivor. Certainly, and the Torah is honest about it. The Torah says he's a failure, but the Torah understands why he's a failure. It was Noach's interest that this incident of his drinking and becoming intoxicated remain in his tent, remain a secret from the world. That would have been Noach. It should have been private. It should have been forgotten. People make mistakes, right? Well, but somebody came along and decided to show the world his nakedness. Certainly, Torah doesn't tell you. Doesn't tell you. That's a detail that the Torah is not adding to the. It doesn't believe that is going to add such an important element, because the real story is Chum. What does Chum do to his father? Chum demonstrates to the world, you think my father is the vaunted righteous man who saved the world? I'll tell you about who my father is.
There are very few survivors, and who's going to take the responsibility for saving the world now?
Right.
So he's saying, no, it's not my father, it's me.
But furthermore, as the Rav points out, do people make mistakes? Of course they do. Where should the mistake be kept? In the confines of your home. Why is it being published and publicized to whomever the world is? You're pointing out that Shem and Yafes, whoever the world is, what has Ham done terrible? He's taken a private mistake of his father and he's broadcasted it aloud for everyone, whoever the everyone is, to hear.
So
he publicizes, but Ham wanted the world to know the nakedness of his father. Unlike his two brothers, what does Shem and Yafes do? They did not continue. What does the Torah say?
They put the clothes, they took
Vayikach Shem v'Yafes, at the very end. Vayosim Hashem vayechu acharanis, ve'ervas avihem lo ra'u. They weren't willing to see the nakedness of their father. They weren't buying what he was selling. He was selling a destruction of his father's personality. They weren't buying it. No, this is Abba. We're not who we are without our father. What are you doing to us? And remember what I said at the very beginning. This story is not only a failure of Noach as a survivor and being able to be the leader of the next generation. What else is he not able to do? Keep his family united. He can't do it. And he doesn't do it. He fails.
And not only does not keep them united, his curse to them, his punishment to them is disunity. Right. But I'm just thinking, in order for your father or for a human to be a hero, you can't look at their physicality, because the minute you narrow them down to their physical aspects, then they're no longer the hero. And so I just wonder, on a practical level of Kibbud Av V'Aim, if this is teaching us that when you have an elderly parent, is it disrespectful for the child to take care of them?
What do you think the halacha says?
I
Halacha says that's a big question in halacha. Halacha says you should get somebody else to do that. 100%. You
You
should get- you should get. You should get 100%.
Though sometimes
100%.
like you might be doing it with more care,
Listen, the halacha is not.
but I think at the end of the
halacha-
day, you have that image in your head
Yes.
and it disturbs.
Yes.
And everybody is at the end of
Yes.
the day a physical
Listen.
human being and you
Right.
have your,
You can't done.
Okay.
right?
Continue on. Let's continue on.
So why is Canaan punished then? How come?
Oh, the Rav doesn't. Interesting.
Yeah.
Remember, the Rav doesn't. He's not Rashi.
Right.
He's not Rashi. He's not looking at. He's giving us a gestalt view. He's hovering over the entire text. The Rav, when he talks about a parsha, what he does. Remember this constantly, right? He's looking from 20 feet above, looking down, and he says, "What lesson do I take from this story?" What lesson is the Rav taking? I think it's a profound lesson that I would never have taken. A lesson about kibbud av. I read this story. I've read this story for 60 plus years, and I haven't read it like this. Oh, the Rav comes in and he focuses. It's like the drone above seeing down, and he says, "Aha! There's a lesson here for you and me." And what is it? Understanding a lesson that you can take away from pertaining to kibbud av. Let's continue on. Vayikach Shem v'Yefet et hasimla. Vayasimu al Shechem shnehem vayilchu acharonit posuk chav gimel, right? Vayichasu et ervat avihem upnehem acharonit ervat avihem lo ra'u. What the posuk cries out a question, which is
They were not participating.
no. What's the question that the posuk cries out? You read that and you go, huh? A mistake in the text. No. Vayikach is in the plural or in the singular? It's in the singular. But how many people were involved in this? And not only that, continue on in the pasuk. Vayasimu, singular or plural? Vayichasu, singular or plural? Plural. But vayikach, no. Vayikach is singular. So what does Rashi say? The Rav quotes Rashi quite often. What does Rashi say? Rashi says you had two people involved, but not equally, right? One is the initiator, one is the follower. One helps after the other says, we got to do something. Who's the leader? Vayikach is the leader. In other words, did Shem v'Yafes equally get involved on this? What's the answer? No, he didn't. No, Vayikach is Shem is the one. This is the most revealing aspect, if you will, about the story. It's not Yefes and Shem and Yefes together equally. No, it's Shem who responds immediately, right? Okay, Vayikach, right? Vayikach. It doesn't say Vayikhu. Okay, Rashi quoting the Medrash. Rashi's quoting the Medrash. Because both acted differently, this is fascinating. Watch how the Rav understands a Medrash. Because they acted differently. Shem was the one who initiated it. Shem, in other words, had the higher level of kibbud av than Yefes. Yefes follows through. Yefes helps. Yefes acts appropriately. He's not chum, God forbid, but Shem is the one who really acts and initiates. Shem and Yefes get a reward, Chazal say. Shem gets, now let's understand this. Shem, the Medrash says, Shem, of course, Shem ve'ever, right? Shem is the Rosh Yeshiva. Shem is the one who's going to teach me, right? He's going to teach Yaakov, correct? He's going to teach Yitzchak. He's going to teach, right? He's running the base Medrash, if you will. He's teaching the world ethics. Shem gets a reward. His descendants will get tzitzis with techeles. That's what the Medrash says. And Yefes, his descendants will get the reward of kfura, of being buried when they die. They're not going to be left out and we can really appreciate this after this terrible horror that we just experienced, right? If there's anything that we want to happen immediately, yes, and we're brokenhearted with everything that happened, but something that must be gnawing at all of us is that they still have so many bodies that they haven't buried because they have to identify them. And that's just That's a bizui hames. Actually, Rabbi Yonah Rees, the Av Bezdin of the Chicago Bezdin and the Sgan Av Bezdin of the RCA Bezdin came out at the very beginning of this horror last week, and when all of the videos from the Hamas were being sent on the internet, demonstrating their barbaric acts, Rabbi Rees Paskin that we shouldn't look at them. Why shouldn't you look at them? Because you shouldn't see the bodies being so mistreated. He felt it was halacha of a violation of bizui hames. You don't look at the dead. We bury the dead. Certainly in this situation where it was so terrible what had happened, he said, you shouldn't look at those videos for a very interesting halakhic concept of bizui hames. So we're very bothered by that, right? So what was the reward of Yefes? Yefes gets the kfura, the right to be buried. He's talking about in Gog and Magog, Yefes will be buried. That's what the Medrash says. Now, the Rav looks at this Medrash in typical fashion, that's the Rav will do, and he says, well, what is the Medrash telling me? It is alluding to the responses, the two different personalities. What's Shem? What's Yefes? Who is Shem? Who is Yefes? How do we understand Shem?
He was a leader.
A leader, but he was morally driven, correct? He has a concept of kibud av aim, correct? That his brother Chum clearly rejected. He has a sense of morality, and he does what with his sense of morality? He acts. What about Yefes? He's a follower. Yefes agrees. Yefes doesn't disagree. He wants to be in the camp of morality, but he's a follower, correct? He's Shem. He's going to follow. He's going to follow Shem. That's Yefes. So the Rav says Yefes and Shem. Shem is morality. Yefes is etiquette. Yefes is driven by etiquette. Okay, he's motivated by this etiquette. What is etiquette? Can you please tell me, if you had to write a few paragraphs on description of what the word etiquette means, what would you immediately say? You would say what the public sees. What the public sees. The etiquette is what the public sees. They know, right? The ultimate etiquette, the basic etiquette is what? How we set a table. What do you mean how you set the table? Well, you know your fork is on one side and your knife and spoon are on the other side. But why is that important? Because that's what people see. People walk in, they see it's correct. They see it's done like it's supposed to be done. That's etiquette. Etiquette is motivated by appearances, by peer pressure. Etiquette is a peer pressure. He's therefore he therefore is rewarded with what? The ultimate in etiquette, which is kavod hames, right? That's etiquette. What about, so that's Yefetz. Yefetz's concern is he will get the kfura. What about Shem? Shem is morality. What was his reward? Tzitzis and tcheles. What does tcheles remind us of? What does the Gemara say? Why does the tzitzis have the blue? The blue reminds us of the sea. The sea reminds us of the sky. The sky reminds us of the kisei hakava. Correct? What does Shem remember? The tzitzis. What is the tzitzis? Everybody sees it. Uri isem also. Correct? It's a beged shel yom, not a beged shel laila. And where is it, as the Rav notes, where is this beged usually worn? Underneath. It's hidden from others. It's true, the fringes might be seen, but by the way, the Litvaks never wore their tzitzis out. No. Never wore their tzitzis out. The Germans never wore. Germans never wore their tzitzis out. I grew up with that. We don't wear our tzitzis out. The Hasidim wear their tzitzis out, right? Urisem also. They said Urisem also. Everybody said, and the Litvaks said, you have to see, not anybody else. It's a private beged. It's underneath. It's covered up. That's the reward. Who gets that? Shem. Because he's not doing it for etiquette purposes. He's doing it because it's the right thing to do. And who knows the right thing to do? You and Hashem. right? You do it because it's right. So the two rewards, the Rav understand, are reflective of the motivations of these two people. Shame functions on morality, Yefes functions on etiquette. So continue on, go to Pasuk Chav Zayin. So let's talk about Yefet for a second. And the Torah doesn't leave us without understanding Yefet. Yaft Elokim liyefet, v'yishkom bo le'shem, v'yichanan evet lomo. What is Yaft Elokim liyefet? May God extend Yefet, right? May God extend Yefet, but he will dwell in the tents of shame. May Canaan be the slave for both of them. The word Yefet means what? Beauty. Noach blessed Yefet with an appreciation of beauty, of style, of etiquette. That is exactly what makes Yefet tick. Shame, totally different. What is shame? V'yishkon be'ohale shame. What does that mean?
Well, he's a follower. And
V'yishkon be'ohale shame. Shame, what does your shame get? The Shekhinah. The Shekhinah comes quietly into one's home, right? Shekhinah resides, and that's the opposite of Chum. What did Chum do? He doesn't believe in privacy. He believes that the world has to know. I'm going to tell the world of my father's nakedness, right? He reveals everything. Everything should be shown. Everything should be, on X, that's correct. Everything should be shown. So, but Shekhinah resides with shame because the divine presence is welcomed by shame both in private and in public. And shame acts out of his deep sense of morality. So to wrap up these few psukim are profound according to the Rav, right? What did we learn? Well, we learned that number one, this pivots. This is the pivot in the Parshas Noach. If I would ask you, where is the pivot that everything surrounds this whole parsha of Noach? These are the 11 psukim. Why? Because the first part of Noach is about Noach saving the world, right? The second part of Noach is Noach leaves the stage. Where do we see that he leaves the stage? And why does he leave the stage? Because he doesn't have it in him how to handle his being a survivor. It takes a lot to be a survivor. He just doesn't have it. It's a criticism, but it's not a brutal criticism, right? It's a realistic criticism. Noach just doesn't have it. That's what these 11 psukim demonstrate.
Kind of prepared for it because the Torah lets us know, like he's like best we got, not that he's the best.
That's correct. He is the best we got, and he can't handle it. So that one, and the Rav learns the story of Shem, Chum, and Yafes and how they react to their father from this fascinating understanding that they had perceived the halacha of kibud of totally different. Chum is the one who rejects it outright. I'm whom I am, me, myself, and I. That's what counts. And Shem and Yefes reject that. But Shem is the leader. And then, therefore, Shem becomes, now you can really understand how Chazal understood Shem being the Rebbe of the Avos, right? The Rebbe of the Avos, because what does he have to teach the Avos? And Midos, morality, and leadership. What is Shem going to teach Yitzchak and Yaakov? What's he going to teach them? We don't have Avram going to the base medrash of Shem, but okay, obviously he does. And to a certain degree, he has a relationship with Shem. But Shem is teaching the Avos morality and leadership, right? That's who he is. And that's, now you can understand why Chazal always claimed that he was the Rebbe, Shem and Aver, right? Were the Rebbe of the Avos. That's where they're going to go and learn. What's he going to teach them? Okay, now we understand what he's teaching them. The lessons of leadership and the lessons of morality. Okay? Okie dokie. We'll pick it up next week. Sure.
I mean, didn't Noah fail initially? I mean, now we see his downfall after, but didn't he fail by not encouraging people to?
Yes,
do,
yes,
you know,
yes.
failure?
Chazal are very critical of Noach. Noach fails that he's only worried about his own family, himself and his own family. He doesn't save anybody else. Unlike Avram prays for stone. Right.
Right,
There's
so
a stark
failed
difference.
Day one.
I
mean, from the beginning, he
Okay,
didn't do his job.
he didn't, and he can't be a survivor. So this is the pivot, right?
But I think it says, this is why it took 120 years to build the Teiva. Because the people that would go
Right,
around
because I'll say
will
that.
see.
Right, because I'll say that. Kept on asking him for 120 years, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he wasn't able to influence. And if you can't influence the people around you, you don't care to influence.
Right.
If you don't care to influence, I'm going to worry about me and no one else and my family, but no one else. That's a failing. That's a terrible failing. Right? Right? Yeah, Chabad rejects the Noach personality totally. Chabad adopts the Avram personality. He's going to be Megayer the Anashim, and she's going to be Megayer the Nashim. Okay, we'll continue Bezrat Hashem next week.
I think we have it in the first word of the